Hi everyone, my name is Becky and I'm a beekeeper in the local area. I'm in the Dover area / Brandon, right off McIntosh 4. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the honeybee. More? I'm going to talk a little bit about the honeybee and I'm going to start with the stages of a honeybee because it's important to know the stages of a honeybee and how she grows so that you can understand how the Roundup chemical and other chemicals from Monsanto affect the honeybee. So when a queen bee lays an egg, within a couple days, 3 days or so, a pupa hatches out, which is basically a caterpillar, equivalent to a butterfly caterpillar. And then she eventually goes into what's called a cocoon stage called the brood. And she's going to gain wings from that stage. And after she hatches out of that, within 8 hours, she can't fly, can't sting you. You can actually play with a honeybee at that stage. It's kind of fun. And she's going to become the nursery bee, and as she grows older, she's going to go through different stages of the hive to do different functions. As a community, an individual honeybee does not have an immune system, so it's very important to understand that. At least one third of all the food that you eat is from a honeybee. If it's not from a honeybee, and strawberries are wind pollinated, when a bee falls on a strawberry, you're going to get a larger fruit. So it's going to create more seeds, so then more fruit is needed for those seeds. So you're going to get a larger plump of strawberry. So bees are important to even foods that don't require pollination from a bee. It's going to add to that fruit size. So you need to know that, and you need to know then that the bee eventually emerges from the hive and she forages, right? She's going to do different activities. When she first flies, she's only going to go so far because she's going to hit whatever is closest and pollinate that. But the older bees are smarter and wiser. They're going to go to the good trees. So there's 4 properties or resources that the hive needs. Anybody know any from last year what they are? Pollen is one. Nectar is one, right? We get honey from nectar. Anybody know any others? Water. The hive's going to need water to cool things down. And they're going to need sap from the trees, which is going to create propolis, which is going to seal all the cracks. And they also will make sure that the hive is antibacterial with that propolis. Okay, so everything in the hive is beneficial to you, including the bee sting. If you can't breathe from a bee sting, it's because you're allergic. But if you swell up, it's because you're toxic, not because you're allergic. And you need to know those different parts of the honeybee because when they fly out, and those bees are going to get hit with Roundup from Monsanto, what it does is it causes confusion in their nervous system and they actually don't make it back to the hive. So a honeybee will fly 3 to 5 miles in every direction to get pollen and those 4 resources. When she flies out there, she's going to get confused by these chemicals and not return to the hive. If she does indeed return to the hive and she doesn't get overly confused, she's going to bring one of those resources back and it's going to be infected. And guess who's eating that resource? You guys. Okay? So when people come to me and they say, oh, I want honey with wax in it. I came from another country and we used to eat the honeycomb all the time. I never sell my wax. Because if anywhere there's going to be pesticides, that wax is absorbing. Because the honey is coming and going. We're pulling and drawing out that honey every time we get new nectar, but that wax is remaining, so it's going to absorb all those chemicals. So you want to know your local beekeeper, you want to know that they're using organic products inside their hive and not adding to that too. I use organic essential oils in my hive and as much as possible. So they've done studies and they do believe that the bees also they have a gland inside them that's for the royal jelly. The royal jelly is the food for the queen. So when she comes and she's infected with that royal jelly, now we're not going to get good queen. So you're either going to lose bees outside the hive or you're going to lose bees inside the hive from the inside out. And that's why we're collapsing. We're kind of collapsing from every direction. When people ask what is colony collapse disorder, it's the equivalent to you getting the flu shot, getting the flu, and getting food poisoning. Basically, the doctor wouldn't have any idea what's really going on because there's just so many things going on in that environment. Okay, so it's very hard to determine what colony collapse disorder is from, but it's collapsing from every different direction, and that's what you need to know about. So we need to watch and make sure we're banning things like Roundup from Monsanto, and you also do need to be very careful with some of the quote organic ones out there as well, like Captain Jack is very dangerous for the honeybee. So you have to really know your products. and you really want to stay away from those chemicals. I did post on the website a pesticide that is organic and very easy to make out of vinegar and water and different things. So there is one I posted this morning for that. So just know what you're using in your gardens, plant bee-friendly gardens, and let's march.
Madagascar, South Africa, Taiwan, Australia, Austria, Czech Republic, Ireland, Latvia, Macedonia, England, New Zealand, Canada, British Columbia, and many more. These are confirmed countries around the world that are marching today. Alabama, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Tampa, Iowa, Michigan, Mississippi, Nevada, New Mexico, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, D.C., West Virginia, and many more. These are confirmed cities across the United States that are marching with us today. Hello, my name is Dessa, and I'm one of your local March Against Monsanto Tampa organizers. And I thank you guys for coming out and participating for your right to know what's in your food and to get the GMO labeling issue on our ballot and legislation passed. With so many countries and cities across the world marching today, it makes me wonder what our government is thinking of. We have people speaking out. 93% of the population that was polled said they want GMO labeling, yet our government is not listening. That's one of the reasons why we're marching today. Currently, we have 64 countries across the world that have banned GMOs. Have labeled GMOs. 26 of those countries have outright banned GMOs because of health concerns. Woo! GMOs were introduced into our food supply in the mid-1990s with no testing and no oversight by our government. The FDA is the regulatory agency that is supposed to oversee GMOs, yet they rely on the testing of the companies that produce GMOs. So this is a serious flaw in our system, and that's why we're asking for labeling and hopefully banning of GMOs. When independent testing of GMOs are done and the results are not favorable toward GMO technology, the research is considered faulty, it's attacked. Sometimes the scientists that actually do independent testing are attacked both physically and verbally. This should outrage everybody. We are being used as a human guinea pig in a horrible experiment with our health, the health of our children, and the health of our environment. In the United States, approximately 30 states have introduced legislation to call for GMO labeling. California and Washington were two states that moved. They were defeated. The Grocery Manufacturers Association and the biotech industry came in at the last minute, poured millions of dollars into these campaigns with false advertising and scare tactics to tell people that the price of food would skyrocket and you won't be able to afford food anymore. Currently we have Vermont, the first state that labeled GMOs with no restrictions, okay? It takes effect in July 2016. Unfortunately, this law is being attacked. Vermont is being threatened. The state of Vermont is being threatened with a lawsuit backed by the biotech industry and the Grocery Manufacturers Association. This is a sad day when a state passes a law that its citizens want. They want to know what's in their food. They want GMOs labeled. Yet, our government is not listening. And now there's going to be a lawsuit filed against a state. This is, again, outrageous. People should be outraged by this. Currently, we have legislation. Currently, the state's right to pass GMO legislation is being undermined by the biotech industry and the Grocery Manufacturers Association. They have political influence and they have the money to sway and buy our politicians. Currently, there's federal legislation that's being introduced by a congressman in Kansas called the Safe and Accurate Food Labeling Act of 2014. This act, if it gets passed, will undermine states basically it will take states' rights away to label GMOs. The act calls for amendment to the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, calling to give the power to determine what gets labeled GMOs and what does not get labeled GMOs to the FDA. Gives the power to the Secretary of our FDA, who has been part of the Monsanto revolving door in and out of our government. This again should outrage everybody. Since our politicians are no longer listening to us and representing the people of the United States, we have to take matters into our own hands. And this is why we march today. So enough with the gloom and doom. We need consumers like you and I to take action. We need to continue to march. We need to use our buying power, show with our dollars, our purchasing power. Don't buy products that contain the top 5 GMO ingredients. You've got corn, soy, canola, sugar beets, and cottonseed. And there's approximately some zucchini squash and yellow squash and Hawaiian pineapple that have been genetically modified. Talk to your grocers, yes, and papaya that comes out of the Caribbean, okay? Talk to your grocers. Tell them that you want organics, that you want non-GMOs, that you want products that have been non-GMO project certified. Talk to your favorite restaurants. Tell them to offer non-GMO options. Call and contact your food manufacturers. We had Cheerios. There was an outrage. Everybody Facebooked Cheerios on their Facebook page and blasted it. They took the high fructose corn syrup out. Yeah, it's okay, but we could do a little bit better. But that was by you, the consumer, that made that change. So we can do a change. We just all have to get involved. Again, you can buy organic, certified, Project Non-GMO from your local health food stores. Support your health food stores. Support your farmers markets, your community-supported co-ops. And if you know a local farmer that's not growing non-GMO, please talk to him and ask him if he'd be willing to plant part of his field as non-GMO. You can also download the non-GMO shopping guide off the Institute for Responsible Technology's website, so that you can make your shopping easier. It gives you companies that have either been non-GMO project verified or gives you better options. There's also an app called Fujicate that you can download that will tell you whether the product contains GMO, and it also tells you all kinds of different other chemicals that are in it. You can join, donate, and participate in various national organizations that are fighting for your right to know and for GMO labeling. These include the Institute for Responsible Technology, Organic Consumers Association, Just Label It, Union of Concerned Scientists. There's tons of organizations out there. Find one that resonates with you. Donate, participate. When petitions come across, sign them, forward them. You can get on email lists and websites. Get on March Against Monsanto Tampa Facebook page. Be Against Monsanto. Make sure you sign our petitions. We've got 3. We've got a sign-in sheet for the march, and we have one for in case we have to go to a constitutional amendment. And we have one that's directed towards Publix, to ask Publix to start phasing out GMOs out of the Publix brand products. Publix is a very progressive grocery store. If any of the grocery stores are going to do this, Publix would be the one, but we need signatures on that petition, and we need people to go into their Publix stores and say, I want non-GMO, I want organic. And the most important thing is educate. This is a grassroots movement. People still don't know what GMOs are. They're shocked. That's where you and I come in. We know, we've educated ourselves. So you go out there and educate your family, your friends. If you can talk to your church groups, your PTAs, anywhere and everywhere that you think that you can offer education, get out there, take pamphlets, flyer, do these things. And you can have movie night, invite people over, watch Genetic Roulette, awesome movie, great education. Woo! Oh my God, OMG, GMO, Seeds of Deception. There's tons of movies out there that you can watch to really get educated and find out what this is all about. So these are some of the things that you as consumers can do, and we have to do if we want this issue to go forward. Our governments are not going to do it, and we will continue to march. We'll have march after march after march until we get GMO labeling and ultimately GMOs banned out of our food supply. So make sure you sign those petitions and get your signs ready and get involved and just say no to GMOs. Thank you guys.
Okay, first protest ever, and the first time I've ever used a microphone, so, I mean a megaphone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, so the lady who spoke just before was talking about the GMA, the Grocery Manufacturers Association. And the problem with the GMA is that they're fighting against labeling, okay? And for example, she mentioned that they contributed, huge sums of money to defeat the propositions, which I think were last year in Oregon and California, which were very narrowly defeated. And they're also they're promoting the law that's been introduced to Congress to prohibit the states from having their own GMO labeling laws, which is outrageous. There's 64 countries that have GMO labeling laws, and we've got a law introduced to Congress to prohibit our states from having GMO labeling laws. Now, the way really to, I think, part of the way to win this war is to stop buying the products of the companies that are members of the GMA. So, exactly, we're voting with our dollars, and every time we buy a product from a company that's a member of the GMA, we're voting to support GMOs. We're voting to prohibit labeling GMOs. And so we need to know what those companies are and also their subsidiaries. And my favorite example is Larabars. I used to eat a Larabar every day until I saw this, and I found out Larabar is a subsidiary of General Mills. So every time I buy a Larabar, I'm fighting against labeling GMOs. How much sense does that make? Not much to me. So there's a growing boycott, and I printed this off of the internet. Okay, it's the top 20 companies that are members of the GMA, and I've got about 100 left, I think, and my son has about 50 more. He's over there with the long blonde hair. So please come get a copy of this from me if you don't have one already. Okay, it's companies that we need to stop buying their products. We need to go to their websites and tell them, I'm now part of the boycott against you, and I will be until you drop your opposition to GMO labeling. If we put enough pressure on these companies, they're in it for profit, and if they realize that opposing GMO labeling is going to lose them money, then they'll drop their opposition. So please come get a copy of this from me, and if I run out, get a copy from your son. And if you want to get some for your friends, for your family, get 5, get 10, whatever. I don't care if I run out, it won't bother me a bit. Let's go to war peacefully, and let's win this war.
Woo! Alright, we're not just marching against Monsanto, unfortunately. We're marching against Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Nestle, Kellogg's, Starbucks, Kraft, Campbell's, Cargill, Lilly, General Mills. All the bad guys. Let's not give them our money. But we're also marching against our own government. The Florida legislature, excuse me, do you know there was a bill, House Bill 1233, that Representative Vasalinda brought to the table for labeling GMOs in the state of Florida? Guess what happened? It disappeared. And the person that made it disappear, Senator Munford, gets a lot of campaign contributions from Monsanto!
Yes, to Monsanto!
So, we have to vote with our dollars, and we also have to vote when we go to the voting precinct. So you need to be aware of who is getting their money from whom and how they're voting on these issues. We have a right to know what's in our food. Yes. We are supposed to be a democracy. Yes. This is what democracy looks like, not what it looks like in the House legislatures, okay? This is democracy. All right. We want our rights, we want our page. Check it out. Also, we meet every Wednesday at Sacred Grounds Coffee House.
Not this Wednesday.
Not this Wednesday, we need a break. But every Wednesday, 7 p.m., Sacred Grounds Coffee House, 4819 East Bush Boulevard. Be there. We need you. We can't do this by ourselves. There's a lot of people here. Maybe you can't come out every Wednesday, but maybe you can come out once a month for movie nights. Join up. We all need to win this fight together. Thank you. All right.
Alright, I just dreamed this up last night when I was working on this stage, drawing all these little bees on it and everything. And I said, you know, the bees are having a hard time. They're all getting wiped out by neonicotinoids. Neonics, they're like the coating on seeds and the things that Monsanto and Sargento spray in the air. And I'm thinking we should start a petition to put the bee on the endangered species list. Yes. So it's brand new. Yes. We all can work together and get this going, and that's one way to stop these big companies from spraying stuff that's poison out of airplanes. We have to hire people to pick the weeds instead of killing everything on the planet. That's what I got to say, and we'll be putting this together with the rest of the March Against Monsanto group and getting it out there, go nationwide. I'm sure all the beekeepers in the country will be behind this. Thank you.